Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om 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 Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Today we're studying Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, which is called Status Quo, Chapter 6, titled Creation of the Universal Form, Text 34. Ete,
Ete,
Varna,
Varna,
Sva, Dharmina,
Dharmina,
Ete Varna, Sva, Dharmina,
Ete Varna Swadharmena,
Yajanti,
Yajanti,
Svagarum,
Swagarum,
Harim,
Harim,
Yajanti, Svagarum, Harim,
Yajanti Swagarum Harim,
Shradhayatma,
Shradhayatma,
Vishuddhi,
Vishuddhi,
Artam,
Artam,
Shradhayatma, Vishuddhi, Artam,
Shradhayatma, Vishuddhi, Artam,
Yash,
Yaj,
Jata,
Jato,
Saha,
Saha,
Prithivi, Hey, Yash, Jata, Svaha, Prithivi,
Yajata, Saha, Prithivi,
Ete Varna, Swadharmena,
Ete Varna Swadharmena,
Yajanti, Svagarum, Harim,
Yajanti Swagarum Harim,
Shradhayatma, Visuddhyatam,
Shradhayatma, Vishuddhyartam,
Yajata, Saha, Prithivi,
Yajata, Saha, Prithivi,
Ete Varna, Swadharmena,
Ete Varna Swadharmena,
Yajanti, Svagarum, Harim,
Yajanti Swagarum Harim,
Shradhayatma, Visuddhyatam,
Shradhayatma, Vishuddhyartam,
Yajata, Saha, Prithivi,
Yajata, Saha, Prithivi,
Ete Varna, Swadharmena,
Ete Varna Swadharmena,
Yajanti, Svagarum, Harim,
Yajanti Swagarum Harim,
Shradhayatma, Visuddhyatam,
Shradhayatma, Vishuddhyartam,
Yajata, Saha, Prithivi.
Yajata, Saha, Prithivi.
Please chant.
Ete Varna Swadharmena,
Ete Varna, Swadharmena,
Yajanti Swagarum Harim,
Yajanti, Svagarum, Harim,
Shradhayatma Vishuddhyartam,
Shradhayatma, Visuddhyatam,
Yajata Sahavrittivihi,
Yajata, Saha, Prithivi.
Ete Varna Swadharmena,
Ete Varna, Swadharmena,
Yajanti Swagarum Harim,
Yajanti, Svagarum, Harim,
Shradhayatma, Vishuddhyatam,
Shradhayatma, Visuddhyatam,
Yajata, Saha, Prithivi,
Yajata, Saha, Prithivi. Eti Varna Swadharmena,
Ete Varna, Swadharmena,
Yajanti Swagarum Harim,
Yajanti, Svagarum, Harim,
Shradhayatma, Vishuddhyartam,
Shradhayatma, Visuddhyatam,
Yajata, Saha, Prithivi,
Yajata, Saha, Prithivi.
Ete Varna Swadharmena,
Ete Varna
Swadharmena,
Yajanti Swagarum Harim,
Yajanti, Svagarum, Harim,
Shradhayatma Vishuddhyartam,
Shradhayatma, Visuddhyatam,
Yajata, Saha, Prithivi,
Yajata, Saha, Prithivi. Anyone else? All these
All these
are
are
not
not
orders of society.
orders of society.
Svadhamena,
Sadhamina,
by one's own occupational duties.
by one's own occupational duty.
Yajanti,
Yajanti,
worship.
worship.
Svagaram,
Swagaram,
with the spiritual master.
with the spiritual master.
Harim,
Harim,
the supreme personality of Godhead.
the supreme personality of Godhead.
Shraddhaya,
Shraddhaya,
with faith and devotion.
with faith and devotion.
Atma,
Atma,
self.
self.
Vishuddhi, I'm sorry, Vishuddhiyartam,
Vishuddhiyartam,
for purifying.
for purifying.
Yat,
Yat,
from whom?
from whom?
Jata,
Jata,
born.
born.
Saha,
Saha,
along with.
along with.
Pritibi,
Priti,
occupational duty.
Occupational duties.
Translation and purport by His Divine Loving Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. All these different social divisions are born with their occupational duties and living conditions from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, for unconditional life and self-realization, one has to worship the Supreme Lord under the direction of the Spiritual Master. Please repeat. All these different social divisions are born
All these different social divisions are born
with their occupational duties
with their occupational duties
and living conditions
and living conditions
from the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
from the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Thus, for unconditional life
Thus, for unconditional life
and self-realization,
and self-realization,
one has to worship the Supreme Lord
one has to worship the Supreme Lord
under the direction of the Spiritual Master.
under the direction of the Spiritual Master.
Since they are born from different parts of the body of the Supreme Lord in His gigantic form, all living entities in all parts of the entire universe are supposed to be His eternal servitors. I'm sorry, it's a typo on my thing. It's supposed to be the eternal servitors of the Supreme Body. Every part of our body, such as the mouth, hands, thighs, and legs, is meant to render service to the whole. That is their constitutional position. In subhuman life, the living entities are not conscious of this conditional position. But in the human form of life, they are supposed to know this through the system of the varnas, the social orders. As above mentioned, the Brahmana is the spiritual master of all the orders of society, and thus Brahminical culture, culminating in the transcendental service of the Lord, is the basic principle for purifying the soul. In conditioned life, the soul is under the impression that he can become the Lord of the universe. And the last point of this misconception is to link oneself to the Supreme. The foolish conditioned soul does not take into account that the Supreme cannot be conditioned by Maya or illusion. If the Supreme were to be conditioned by illusion, where would be his supremacy? In that case, Maya or illusion would be the Supreme. Therefore, because living entities are conditioned, they cannot be supreme. The actual position of the conditioned soul is explained in this verse. All the conditioned souls are impure due to contact with material energy in three modes of nature. Therefore, it is necessary that they purify themselves under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master who not only is a Brahmana by qualification, but must also be a Vaishnava. The only self-purifying process mentioned herein is to worship the Lord under the recognized method, under the guidance of the bona fide spiritual master. That is the natural way of purification, and no other method is recommended as bona fide. The other methods of purification may be helpful to come to the stage of life, but ultimately one has to come to this last point before he attains actual perfection. Bhagavad Gita 7:19 confirms this truth as follows. Bhamunam janmanam te jnana bhamam apajyante vasudeva savamiti samahatma sudurlavaha. Omikana chamantasya janantana salataya jasumilitanyena tasmai shikare namaha. Narayanam namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayam Dhirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagawatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisance unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Naitya Preshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavatam Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamasoke Bhaktim Bhavati Nastiki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, whose praise with transcendental songs is established as an irrevocable fact. So, the scene is high in the mountains, and Vidura is asking questions of Maitreya. And the topic is the universal form, which I find quite mystifying in itself. This is a form of the Lord who is Satchidananda Vigraha, eternal, but this form is temporary. And this form can be seen sometimes, cannot be seen at other times, and is illusory at times. But all the elements in the manifestation are in this form. And interesting enough, as confusing, as complicated as this form is, the demigods went to the Lord, praying to the Lord for understanding of their duties. And the Lord clarified it by manifesting this form as a blueprint so that they could perform their duties. And as we learned in the last few days, it's from the mouth of this form came wisdom, which empowered Brahmanas to be Brahmins. And from the arms came the power of protection. And from the thighs came the livelihood, the means of livelihood for the Vaishyas. And from the legs came the mentality of service for the Sudras, which is also vital to all of us because it's all based on service. So the understanding is that why all these varnas working together to serve the Lord, that the human form of life can become very valuable. So different persons have different qualities. And it's interesting that the Lord, He's so mysterious. Like in the Upanishad, it says that although He's fixed in His abode, the personality of Godhead is swifter than the mind and can overcome all others running. These powerful demigods cannot approach Him, although in one place He controls those who control the supply of air and rain. He surpasses all in excellence. So we're learning about this personality of God, and this is very important, as I will touch on in just a few moments. But these different qualities that the different types of living entities acquire, they give them the ability to do the different types of work. And that's true from the lowest planetary system up to the highest. And it makes the purpose of the creation is not just so the living entities can come to try and enjoy this material world, but there's also a pathway out of this material world. The living entity can actually rediscover their original position. So all this is coming from the Lord. In Bhagavad Gita 4:13, Chaturvanyam maya sristam gunakarma vibhagasaha tasya karta abhimam nitya kartam abhayam. According to the three modes of material nature and the work associated with them, the four divisions of human society are created by me. And although I am the creator of all this system, you should know that I am yet the non-doer, being unchangeable. So it seems like Krishna is doing a lot of double talk here, right? He's saying, I'm the doer, but I'm the non-doer. I'm the creator, but I'm the non-doer. So what does that mean? That means that it's through the energy he creates, Maya, that Maya creates all this. And so he has nothing to do with this material world, really. There's nothing here he wants. There's nothing here he's attracted to. There's nothing here that he can enjoy other than the living entities who are trying to enjoy this inferior energy of his. And so the thing he's supporting is this living entity with his love. And he simply wants that back from us, is that love and that devotion. So human society, as Prabhupada says in this purport, is similar to animal society unless it takes to the divisions that are created by the Lord, these varnas, and for their systematic development in Krishna consciousness. The tendency of a particular man towards work is determined by the modes of material nature that he's acquired through his conditioning. And a person in Krishna consciousness is above even a Brahmana, because Brahmanas are supposed to know about Brahman. They're supposed to be interested in spirit. The supreme absolute truth is the ultimate goal of this. And most only approach the impersonal Brahman, manifestation of Lord Krishna. So they get caught up. You've got the karmis trying to enjoy the material nature, but you have these brahmanas then trying to become God, and but they have to go beyond that understanding. A person who transcends the limited knowledge of the Brahman and reaches the knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, becomes a person in Krishna consciousness, or in other words, a Vaishnava. This includes all the forms of Krishna, Brahma, Nrsimha, Varaha, etc. A person in Krishna consciousness also transcendental to all the divisions of the community, nation, society, even the varnas, and are meant to bring one to Krishna. So, like religion is the essence of how to develop love of God. So the varnas are assistant in which how to come to God. But the basis of loving God, or basis of love, is you have to know the object. And so it's important that we study these scriptures. This is the one thing that really, really attracted me to Krishna consciousness, was even though we only had the first three volumes of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and we had the little Bhagavad Gita purple one, And we had teachings of Lord Chaitanya and Easy Journey to Other Planets. That was always had. It was still, it seemed like a huge library. Because even though I came and even though I studied the Bible for 13 years of my life every day at school, I had enough knowledge about God to put into a thimble. And even that was not accurate at all. You know, my understanding of God, he was an old man, lived up in the clouds. And sometimes as a child I'd wonder, what's it like living in clouds? Because if you took an airplane and went up into the clouds, it was really not much of anything. So I was always curious about that. And to find out all these wonderful things about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and about his family, and about his friends, and his associates, and his dear friends, was really such an incredible blessing. So, and sometimes when we listen to the memory tapes, we'll hear about different devotees talk about how they read Bhagavad Gita before, not Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita, but they read Bhagavad Gita before they came to Krishna consciousness, or they might even have read, Shanta read the Iskcon. And somebody else, I can't remember his name, he read the Puranas. I don't even know where they found such books. But what did it do to change their lives? Absolutely nothing, a zero. But Srila Prabhupada, because he had potency, because he had purity, because he's a dear friend of Krishna, all this, when he explains it to us so we can understand it, and in this way we can actually change our lives very much. In this age of Kali, Srila Prabhupada explains, we can even see the Varnas in different countries, from the lowest Aborigines in Africa. We can see the Brahmanas, we can determine who are Kshatriyas, we can determine who are Vaishyas, we can determine who are Sudras. All the way, all around the world, even in communist countries where they are intent on making everything one and classless. We can still see the Varnas emerging. But unfortunately, in Kali Yuga, it's so degraded. The Brahmanas, and this is a fact, the Brahmanas are being paid great amounts of money to lie. And important for a Brahmana is they always tell the truth. Brahmana must always speak the truth. And so this name, they destroy the caste of Brahmana so that nobody trusts them any longer. In this Monsanto group that created all these GMOs, they paid Brahmanas to lie and say that the GMOs are harmless. Consequently, they were able to sell a great deal of these GMO seeds all over the world. And in India, a terrible tragedy came about because they sold these seeds to the farmers who grew the cotton, and they harvested the cotton very nicely. The bugs didn't destroy the cotton, but then as they send their livestock in to eat the leftover bushes, the livestock died, causing the farmers tremendous hardship. And it caused so much hardship that the farmers themselves felt the only relief that their families would have, because the debt does not follow the farmer, that they should kill themselves. And they had a huge number of people killing themselves. So the repercussions from lying as a Brahmana is immense. And the Kshatriyas, we see this court case just finished where a policeman was videotaped in the public killing a man who was bound and laying on the ground. And this caused, thank goodness, this good thing, it caused riots all over the world that showed that people still have some sensitivity, and that the police are being so brutal. And we see this also with governments. They they do this, they go and interfere with other people's governments. It's just, it's the degradation of the Kshatriyas who are there for protection. And the Vaishyas. It wasn't that long ago that our Vaishyas in America who run the stock market, they created this whole scam in which it was this huge crash that caused so much difficulty, and actually we all paid for that. They did not. They had a mantra that they were chanting while they were setting up these fake bonds, these hedge funds. They were chanting this mantra, it won't matter when it crashes because we'll all be in our private islands. And so this is not, Vaishyas are supposed to support all the other varnas. And what to say of the Sudras? The Sudras are definitely so sad because they have no one to guide them. And so consequently we see so many people, because they're so lost, so confused, taken to intoxication. This is why our Sankirtan movement is so important. And it's so wonderful. People come and sit and chant with the Sankirtan movement. They can learn, they can hear this mantra, and they can get some relief. So these Vaishnava principles are the essence of submission to the will of the Supreme Lord. This material world is so difficult. The Lord knew this before the creation, and so He created this pathway. And this is the mercy of the Lord. But the Vaishnavas are beyond the Varnas. After this verse that Prabhupada gave us, Bahunam Jamanamante Janavan Mam Prapadyante Vasudeva Savami Ti Samahatma Sadurlavaha. After many, many births, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes, and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. And this is our chance. This is our chance, and this is our opportunity to take this and take it seriously. And Srila Prabhupada says the only self-purifying process mentioned herein is the worship the Lord under the recognized method, under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. The other methods of purification may be helpful to come to the stage of life, but ultimately one has to come to this last point before he attains actual perfection. The spiritual master is not just a Brahmana, it must be a Vaishnava. A true Vaishnava is a Brahmana. A true Brahmana becomes a Vaishnava. They are engaged in service to Krishna and are able to teach how to be engaged in his service. And I just wanted to, read something about how Srila Prabhupada came to be a Shaktavadesh avatar by his intense dedication to the instruction of his spiritual master. And so this book was written by our god sister Mula Prakriti, and she took on this project, which was really quite wonderful, is that she went around and found all the people that knew Srila Prabhupada before he came to the West to get further insight into his activities and things he did. And this one, I'm just going to read a short section of this one from Sripad Hari Dayananda Babaji Maharaj. And he was living in the building next to the Radha Damodar in 64. And it says here that at the beginning of the interview, upon being asked if he knew Srila Prabhupada, Babaji Maharaj began to cry. Never have I seen anyone do sadhana like he did. I have lived my life in Braj. I have never seen anyone like him. Prabhupada did many arduous things. He worked very hard there at the Radha Damodar temple. At that time, it was austere, undeveloped, and very muddy and dirty with no facilities. Weeping, Babaji Maharaj quoted a sloka from Chaitanya Charitamrita from Sanatana Goswami about the importance of sadhana. Then quoting Swarup Damodar and Ramananda Roy, he said, without sadhana, one can never attain Krishna prema. Many years later, when I heard that it was actually he who had been chosen by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to spread the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra around the world, I was not surprised. Prabhupada spread this Krishna consciousness by the mercy of Rupa Goswami. Prabhupada used to pray to Rupa Goswami, "You please give me your mercy." And then he got that mercy. I know this because I saw some things he did at the Radha Damodar temple. My room is still located in the same place as it was then in 1964 and 5. Many times in the middle of the night, at midnight, or 1 or 2 in the morning, I would hear a voice crying from inside the courtyard by Rupa Goswami's Samadhi Mandir. That voice was calling out and crying, but I did not know what it was because I was trying to take rest. But one night, on the full moon, I heard that voice again. So I climbed up to the roof of our house and looked down into the Radha Damodar courtyard. I saw something very amazing. Srila Prabhupada was sweeping the courtyard of Rupa Goswami's Samadhi. He was bending down with a small broom, and as he swept the ground by his Samadhi, he was crying out, "Hey Rupa, hey Sanatana, hey Gurudev, please give me your mercy. Without your mercy, I cannot do anything. Give me the mercy, give me the strength that I may fulfill your orders." Then I realized that it was he who almost every night was calling out as he swept like this. Living next door to him, I would often sit as he sat on the veranda in the morning and evening. He was a very attractive personality, and many Vaishnavas were eager for his association. When he gave lectures from the books of the Goswamis or Srila Bhakti Vinod or his Gurudev, many scholars and elevated saints would come and hear. I noticed that people were frequently coming for his Sangha and for his counsel also. He was kind to everyone, and he was very popular. Sometimes, if too many people had visited, he wanted his private time to chant or write in his room. Then he would ask me to sit there in his place on the veranda and tell them, anyone inquiring, that he was not available for now. Because I felt great affection for him, I asked if I might do any service for him. Sometimes he let me sweep the room, the veranda, remove trash, wash clothes, and other small things. So I'll end here. Are there any questions, comments, suggestions? John? Krishna.
I really love that Srila Prabhupada. He served us, he took care of us, even here in Hawaii, like you were saying, how he was sweeping. Here in Hawaii, he cooked us a feast. He had some assistance, but he went around in the yard and he picked all these exotic vegetables from the yard and made things that we didn't even know what it was. But he was always, in the position to enliven the devotees and do so much service. He was a really good cook.
Yeah, he's a perfect acharya. And this is what Vaishnava is. A Vaishnava never thinks, I'm climbing up in society, I'm becoming important, I'm becoming worshipable. No, a Vaishnava is thinking, I am the servant. And the desire is to become the servant of the servant of the servant. That's the Vaishnava's heart. And that's what we all pray for, is to develop that Vaishnava.
may I ask, what exotic vegetables did Prabhupada get from this yard?
Now I know, one was parvo. You know, I didn't know what it was at the time because, you know, the place that we were at had been a Filipino house. It was very huge and it was built almost all the way out to the end of the property, but all on the edge of the property, they grew things. You know, there was bitter melon and there was squash and, you know, Prabhupada made squash blossom pakoras and there was this, the parvo it's something like a cucumber, but it's not a cucumber. It's more. It's got more. When it's cooked, it's a little more succulent. But I remember Prabhupada used the ends. You know how he cut off the ends of everything?
Yeah.
He used
Jai
everything.
Shri
All of it.
Panchapati.
Yeah, she should find Prabhupada.
Jai Shri Shri Panchapati. Yeah, he cooked everything and we didn't even know what things were. We had things that we had never had before.
That is wild
He made
stuff.
kachoris, we had never had kachoris.
Wow. Sounds awesome.
It was,
It was pretty awesome.
it was.
I had something Prabhupada cooked one time, and I swear it was the best thing I had ever eaten.
Right.
He was the most incredible cook.